Oh, yeah, baby. That's right. You know where you are. You're on the Clark the Shark show. It was destiny. You were brought here. God sent you, or maybe Satan, or maybe just there is no God and there is no Satan. And there's just a sharky floating in the universe. And I sent you here so that you can learn about this incredible second album from NILSSON. Allison. I'm thinking of a girl named Allison. Album and NILSSON equals Allison. But I don't know if I know any girls named Allison, but I do know this album by Harry Nilsson, Pandemonium Shadow Show, also called Shandamonium Paddow. If you listen to the album, that's a little inside joke that really isn't. If you know this album, you guys, this second album by Harry Nilsson is as quirky and weird as all the other Nilsson albums, but this is so early in the game. 1967. And of course, there's the old story where John Lennon and Paul McCartney fell in love with this album because I think the guy named Taylor, who's a friend of Epstein or George Martin or somebody in the Beatles entourage, gave John Lennon and Paul a copy of this album, perhaps an advanced copy. And, John Lennon loved it because of the songs Harry Nilsson wrote on here that so much connect with John Lennon, like 1941. Such a great song. But of course, Nilsson does a couple of Beatles covers on this album that are so good. They're almost, I wouldn't say better or equal to the Beatles, but in many ways, this album is so far ahead of its time. This sounds like the 1970s in 1967, you guys. I'm not even exaggerating. I am not even kidding. Harry Nilsson invented the 1970s right here on this album in 1967. This album certainly does have a 1960s vibe, 60s groove. Of course, it's from 1967, you guys. But you can also feel this adult contemporary sound emerging here that's almost boring. It's almost like that lame 1970s that you hate. And it's like Harry Nilsson is inventing it on this album. Now, that can be a good and bad thing, but whatever it is a thing. Harry Nilsson, super visionary. He did this album for richer or for poorer, for better or for worse. And of course, his lead singing voice on this album in particular is really, really great. And I can't say that about every Harry Nilsson album. I'm not one of those guys that just falls over, and I'm over myself, rolling on the ground, just screaming how much I love Harry Nilsson's singing. I love Harry because the guy was funny. He was a weirdo. He's not the world's greatest singer. His vocals are often very monotone, very basic. But I will admit that when he decides to hit high notes, just out of nowhere like lightning, nobody could be singing in a regular singing voice and then suddenly shoot up really high the way that Harry Nilsson does. And he could do back in the day. Now, of course, when I think of great singers, I think of Roger Daltrey of The Who, Robert Plant, Ian Gillan, guys like that. David Coverdale, John Lawton. Those are the guys, man, who are unbelievable. David Byron. I'm thinking those are singers, and Harry Nilsson is not in that class. But when it comes to adult contemporary, there is nobody that can sing that style like Harry Nilsson. And on this album, he is inventive and creative, and he's got this genius where he is an originator of a 1970s vibe right here on Pandemonium Shadow Show 1967. And of course, after this album, Harry would get much better. But in many ways, this is Harry Nilsson's best album, you guys. And in my humble opinion, me, Clark the Shark, right here on the Clark the Shark Show from the fabulous golden EIB Sharkraphone, I really love this album, you guys. And this album was really, really hard to find back in the, the 80s. I could never find this. And, it was out of print, but I did see it. I saw it on sale at places like Music Plus now I don't know if Go Boy Records in Redondo ever had this. I don't know if the Rhodium, I looked and looked for this at the Rhodium in Torrance and other places, and I never found this album. And I had to just hear these songs wherever I could. And somebody did give me a copy of this about 1989, 90, when I was like 24, 25. And I played it. And of course, I loved it, But I knew all these songs individually. But yeah, you guys, anyone out there that says they have the vinyl of this or says they have it, they're probably lying, because this album is very hard to find. Now, today in 2023, I'm sure there's places where you can buy Harry Nilsson Pandemonium Shadow Show on vinyl. I doubt you're going to find the analog vinyl from the original RCA from 1967. If you do, God bless you. If you do find a vinyl of this, it is probably a digital vinyl. But if you of course, you can find the CD of this at Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, Napster, all over the place. And I recommend today, if you're a young person, just 23, you were born in 2000, I want you to learn about Harry Nilsson straight from the heart of me, Clark the Shark, the Wolfman Jack on crack, right here from the golden EIB Sharkraphone, popular on planet Earth, popular in the universe, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, most popular of all on Uranus, of course, me, Clark the Shark. And I'm telling you, you guys, you gotta buy this album by Harry Nilsson, especially if you're a young person right now. You're only 18, 22, you were born in 2001. I want you to listen to Clark the Shark, and I want you to get into Harry Nilsson. And I want you to start right here at this album, Shandamonium Paddow, this amazing Harry Nilsson album from 1967 that John Lennon loved so much, because these songs touch your heart. They touched John, and of course he became best friends with Harry Nilsson, as did Keith Moon and Ringo and Alice Cooper and John Bonham and Mickey Dolenz, all the Hollywood vampires. Everybody hung out with Harry. And Ringo would be like, well, Harry's he's not that good. His albums are crap. But he always had the best hash. And we would always go back to Malibu and crash at Harry's. And it really was true, you guys. Harry was a guy they all hung out with. He really did have talent, in some weird way. Harry had a type of talent that none of those guys had. I can't put my finger on it, but all my life, since I was 5, you guys, I grew up with Harry Nilsson. 4 years old, 5, 6. There was a time from 1968 to 1972, 73, when you turned on your radio and your TV, and all you saw was Harry Nilsson, either a television, Me and My Arrow, or Without You, or all those great songs from The Point, just all those great albums like Harry and, Jump in the Fire, Nilsson Schmilsson, and of course, probably my favorite album, 1972, Son of Schmilsson. The people who say Pussycats is so great, that album is from 1974, you guys, and that is long after the glory days of Harry Nilsson. But indeed, that is one incredible album, you guys, produced by John Lennon. Great music all over it, and Harry's voice is still good on that album. A lot of people say, his voice ain't the best, but I disagree. Just like me, right now I have a bit of a cold or, yelling a lot because I'm going through some legal garbage. And it's very emotional, but I'm sure Harry was the same way, and his voice probably got hoarse from screaming and yelling, but he went in the studio and he still hit it out of the park. And people would say there's blood on the microphone or there's blood on the windscreen of the microphone. And it was true, you guys. Harry Nilsson would pour out his heart and soul into his vocals. But we're going to go back to 1967 to an earlier, kinder, vanished time when Harry was young, and he put out one of the greatest albums in adult contemporary music, maybe in rock music, Pandemonium Shadow Show. This great album, you guys, that I really love by Harry Nilsson. A great guy, man. When I was just 6 years old at Newton School, first grade, man, biggest star on TV, on the radio was Harry Nilsson. And I knew it, you guys. I was just a kid. I was just 6, 7 years old. All those songs, man. These are the and these are the people. Do 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 do. I remember them all, man. I can't forget the times of being young and listening to Harry and just all the stuff, man. Great music. One about the whale, when the whale dies and decomposes. Sometimes I feel like that's me right now, shark. I'm just going to die and decompose, but I want you guys to remember me. But I really want you guys to remember Harry Nilsson. Go visit his grave, man. I know I've been there a few times. And I love the music of Harry. It touches your heart and your soul. Great stuff. And I don't care what the stars are, but this will probably get 5 stars. Oh, it gets 4, baby. It doesn't get a big write-up, but 4.5. Oh, it deserves it. And of course, 10 Little Indians. Killer, man. Love it. A lot of people have done that song, 10 Little Indians. One took the name of God in vain. Then there were 7. Love it. 1941 was the song that John Lennon heard, and he loved it, you guys. The lyrics touched him, man. Harry Nilsson wrote 1941. Just killer, such a awesome, realistic hit of reality there. I want you guys to hear it, and I want you guys to buy it. And of course, Cuddly Toy, this version is lesser known than the Monkees version. But Mickey Dolenz and Davy Jones and all of them said, Harry's version is awesome, and it is. Cuddly Toy. And of course, She Sang Hymns Out of Tune is not by Harry. It's by a guy named Jesse Kincaid. But everyone knows the original version of the song as the Harry Nilsson. And then, of course, the Dillards, 1 year later in 1968, they just do an incredible version of She Sang Hymns Out of Tune that me, Clark the Shark, I love the Dillards version. But there's like 6 or 7 other versions. Don Henley does it. Fuck that guy. But, dude, the Dillards is killer. Killer, dude. Killer. And of course, You Can't Do That, the Beatles song that he turns into a tribute to the Beatles. It's so amazing. And we all grew up with this song in the 70s. All of us, you guys, we remember Harry Nilsson's version of You Can't Do That, where he's like, Beatles forever. And he just mixes in all these Beatles tributes. It's so killer. I love it. You know, some people hate it and they think it sucks. But I'm like, you know, fuck those people. They suck. And of course, my favorite song on the whole album, certainly on side one, is Sleep Late. My Lady Friend. Fucking killer, dude. Harry Nilsson's voice is so awesome on that song. It just sets a mood. It's so awesome. I love it. Sleep late, my lady friend. Killer, you guys. And then, you know, the version of the Beatles, She's Leaving Home. Pretty killer version by Harry, you guys. Not as good as the Beatles, but I don't know. I like it. Some people think it's kind of monotonal, you know, kind of dull. I disagree, you guys. I like his version of She's Leaving Home. It's pretty fucking killer. And, you know, it's different because Harry is so different from the Beatles. And he has his own style and his own signature sound, you know. And his voice is, you know, of course, killer on that and everything else on this album. There Will Never Be is killer, you know. I love it. It kind of almost reminds me of like maybe the music that Blood, Sweat, and Tears would do a year later. I love it, dude. I love There Will Never Be. Killer. Another cover song. And Without Her by Harry Nilsson. Killer, you guys. And he redid that and a couple other tracks on this album in 1971 on one of the earliest versions of a remixed album. I kind of don't like it, but then I kind of do, you know. The updated 1970s version of Without Her, he adds backing vocals, and it's killer, you guys. Freckles is killer. I love it. And It's Been So Long. Love it, you know. I love the whole album, you guys. It doesn't matter. To me, when I hear Harry Nilsson, I love it. Now, if there's one song I probably could do without is, you know, the Phil Spector, River Deep, Mountain High, because so many bands have done this song, you know, Deep Purple, you know, Eric Burdon. Oh, God, too many, you guys. I like the one, you know, by Tina Turner. And I'll leave it at that. But honestly, Harry's version of River Deep, Mountain High ain't bad, you guys. But, of course, I like the Harry Nilsson originals. I wish this album had been all original. More songs like It's Been So Long, you know. Much more of that than River Deep, Mountain High. But, you know, all in all, this album is a breakthrough, cutting-edge album. In the middle of the psychedelic, you know, year of 1967, really at the end of the year, but recorded in that year, is this album, you guys. This came out about the same time as The Who Sell Out, 1967. But to me, Clark the Shark, 1967 will be remembered for psychedelia, but Harry Nilsson came along with this adult contemporary thing that's way ahead of its time with a sound right out of left field, you guys. Nobody was doing shit like this. Harry invented it. You know, there was Neil Diamond and people like that, you know, Blood, Sweat, and Tears and others. But Harry, you guys, is just so bizarre, so unique, such a anomaly island, if you will, of a signature guy with a signature sound and signature songs, and just everything is signature with Harry Nilsson. You know, some people think he's the world's greatest vocalist. I don't. Me, Clark the Shark, I admit it. Harry ain't that great. But then there's something about Harry's heart and soul and his singing that fits together like a puzzle that's just amazing, that nobody can recapture. And, of course, Harry on the album Aerial Ballet after this, and the album Harry from 1969, he would go to another level, you guys. But I want you to hear this album, and I want you to learn each album at a time. Learn about the one before that, you know. His first album, Spotlight on Nilsson, almost sounds like Sonny Bono or something. It's really fucking cool. I love it. All the songs are interesting. But this album to me is the most interesting Harry Nilsson album. Pandemonium Shadow Show, 1967. It was supposed to be called Something Wicked This Way Comes, and they wouldn't allow that title. And that's a bummer, because to me, Clark the Shark, this album is something wicked. And to this earth it came. Harry Nilsson, you guys. 1-800-449-8255 on the fabulous golden EIB Sharkerphone. It's not a microphone. You're listening to that Wolfman Jack on crack. Clark the Shark from that golden EIB Sharky network. You know, it's more than just, you know, a microphone, you guys. When you're listening to the Sharky, you know, you're getting Vin Scully, Wolfman Jack, Hush Bimbo, Hannity, Michael Savage, Tucker Carlson, you name it, but fucking 1,000 times better than every one of them, because you're right here on the Clark the Shark Show. And I just told you the only review of this adult contemporary genius, atmospheric, melodic, bizarre, really weird and twisted artist and musician and great lead singer named Harry Nilsson. And one of his greatest albums, Pandemonium Shadow Show, you guys. I want you to buy it. And when you do, you tell him Clark the Shark told me to buy this album. And I hope you do, you guys, because you just got the word, the testimony. I'm Clark the Shark. You just got the only review of this album that you'll ever need, people, and that you will ever want. And I'm out of here. Peace.